Ladies and gentlemen of the viewing audience, this is Heather MacIntosh. If you don't know, get into it. Get into it. She was a finalist and in the top 3 of the 2020 Calypso Monarch competition at the Savannah. You all know the Jamet thoughts on that. We won't get involved in the politics. And she's here with us today. We're macroing Heather business.
Oh dear. When I see the Mako link here, I get frightened. I say, Lord have mercy. A Jamet coming to Mako my business. If that is not, I know, boy, pick up your heels and run. But here we are.
Here we are. How are you, Heather? How have you been?
Well.
What are you up to?
Hi. Lots of things, it's amazing. I know in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, for many creatives, the life has been on pause. My life, though, has not paused. I am grateful that I am one of those people who are not 100% creative. So when the creative industry is shut down, there were other things to do. But even the creative part of me, I think, took a quantum leap, as it were, during the last 2.5 years. I have been singing Calypso since 1985, 1986, trying hard not to date myself. But for the bulk of my Kaiso singing career, the songs were written by my father. And during the pandemic, I guess because there wasn't the pressure of having to enter a competition, I took the leap of faith to try to write. So I have been able, over the course of the pandemic, to pen 2 tunes that were actual tunes, worthy of performance outside of my bathroom. You understand? So I'm very, very proud of myself that in the last 2 years, now with all the pressure of 2023, I will see if I could continue that momentum. Well, I need to, because Daddy done decide, here what, you could write your own song, so me writing for you again. You understand? So I in trouble, you are laughing. This is a very serious matter that we need to call on the ancestors for some strength for. Yeah, but we're going to be all right.
And for those who are not sure who Heather's dad is, it's Short Pants, the encyclopedia that Jarrell and I go to when we're having trouble with finding the name of a calypso or a calypso to tune in with what bacchanal we talking. Short Pants has his things. This is his beautiful and amazing daughter, who is, she writes. She's a writer of her own.
As a writer now, girl. You understand? Put handle to my name, writer.
Yes,
as one of them.
So, I know your son is how to put Jonathan boy, your son is a performer as well. Has he been bitten by the writing bug as well?
He has been writing for a little while, but he more tends to write the poetry type rather than the Kaiso type. So he's been doing a lot of the spoken word and the poetry, which I guess will eventually end up as a Kaiso eventually, because my father would have started that way as well. When my father used to go to QRC, he started by writing in the school's magazine and then writing poetry and then eventually became a Kaisonian. So who knows? Who knows? We could probably look out for Jonathan in the not too distant future as a Kaisonian himself. Yeah, he's into the percussion, so he likes music. He likes drumming. So, he has a little drum set and the little djembe and stuff that he works on. But he more uses it as background for the poetry.
A beautiful bloodline there.
Legacy, girl, legacy. You can't help it. You can't run.
Yep, definitely. What besides writing calypsos on your own now, what else has Heather been up to in the past
and this is what else? Kaiso related or what else? Oh, this is a real Mako business.
Mako business.
A real Mako business. Yeah. You're all up in the business. Girl, life is such a funny and interesting thing. So in 2020, the piece that would have got me into the National Calypso Monarch final was a piece entitled Claude. Claude, as many of us would know, is the Bishop of the Anglican Church, Claude Berkeley. And in November of the previous year, there had been the fiasco of the fashion show that took place at the cathedral, where scantily clad ladies had walked across the altar, and through the vestry. So my piece, Claude, was about all of the things that, yes, starting with the fiasco of the fashion show, but highlighting some of the other things that I thought were not being done in the best way in the Anglican Church. Fast forward 12, 15 months, and I get a call from the Anglican Church to help with to be the interim administrator of a primary school owned by the Anglican Church. So my regular 8 to 4, I have, I've been teaching Portuguese for upwards of 15 years. I teach Portuguese language and Brazilian studies. That has been my mainstay for a decade and a half. But I now add to the education part of my existence, administrator of a private primary school. They say no good deed goes unpunished. I go and I put Claude on blast. What do? Claude put me to run a primary school. Yeah, listen, I don't know what to do, but here I am trying my best with the little people.
And this is a different set of brains that you're working with here now.
Completely.
Portuguese and Brazilian studies is university, yes?
It's university, correct. It's the University of the West Indies that I have been since 2005. But now I'm dealing with primary school students, and it's an administrative position. So it's a completely different. While I'm at UE, I am dealing with students only, right? And there are those who are above me. But now I am the leader of the organization, beholden to the board and beholden to the Ministry of Education, but I lead the organization, which is a totally different kind of dynamic. And then the persons that I'm dealing with as students are little people. So you have the personalities of 5 to 12-year-olds. And then, of course, because it's 5 to 12-year-olds, you have to deal with their parents. At UE, you don't deal with parents, you understand? Because the students are all adults themselves. So, it's a totally different dynamic. And we're rolling with the punches. So far, so good. Nobody dead, you understand? Nobody in danger of anything just yet. And I'm learning as I go. It has been a wonderful experience, though. I really am grateful for the experience. I was quite surprised to have been called. It's not something that I ever would have imagined for myself. Being a primary school principal, as it were, is not something that I ever had in the plans. But I am grateful for having had the opportunity to learn and to interact at this level in a totally different, connected but totally different kind of sphere of activity.
Yeah, it's a different ball game, a different side of yourself that you now have to engage with.
Correct.
As the proverbial last line of defense.
Right, in these COVIDious times, because COVID and right here, all the anxieties that the parents have, the children who not wearing the mask as they're supposed to, who you can't keep away from their friends, you understand, it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge. I hold my heart every morning and say, Lord, give me strength today to deal with it. But I've been surviving, so things can't be so bad. And I'm telling myself, if I could lead a school through COVID, well, I could do anything. Yeah, there's nothing you can do.
Nothing is impossible at this point now.
Yeah, exactly.
You're good to go. You're prepared for anything.
Prepared for anything. Indeed.
A big thing for us here on To Jam It is community.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important that we invest in community. And it's important for us to remind ourselves as the Jamets that we have to check in on our community. And you are a big part of our community at the To Jamets family. And so I'm wondering from you, though, if if there is something with regards to the Calypso community that you think we could work on so that we could get better. Any tips, any tricks, any suggestions for the Calypso community and coming together?
Um, I think I think we need as Calypsonians to find a way to support each other. And this is not just Calypsonians, but all of the creative sectors. I think we need to find ways of supporting each other. This COVID has shown us that there are very many of us, in much the same way as in the education fraternity, you have noticed the gaps between those who have and those who don't have. I think COVID has also highlighted, in terms of the creative industries, those of us who are in a position to advance easily and those who are not. Those who have access to, the media and the technology, those who are able to, to transition to an online kind of environment, those of us who are not, you understand? So for a long time, we have depended on the stalwarts who know things. And COVID has given an opportunity for those who might not necessarily be grounded in the same way in the art form, but who have the access to the technology, and therefore they have gone forward. So I think there is a need to find a bridge between those who into the technology and who could get us out there, and those who have the talent and the skill, and who might be stuck in the past, and in terms of the way in which the art form is promoted, the way in which we develop things, and finding a way as well to respect the older generation, the ancient bards, protect what they are afraid of. What I have noticed in connecting with some of them is that the fear they have, because they're not aware of what the technology does and what the advantages are, they are afraid of letting go and losing all that they have built over the years. So I think and I'm not sure exactly who is supposed to lead this charge, right? Or whether we just in our own little circles do it and hopefully it spreads. But how do I convince someone who has been singing Kaiso for 50 years in this way that he needs to have an Instagram profile, or he needs to put his music on YouTube, or he needs to, rather than depending on the radio station or depending on when somebody put on a show and call him to be a guest artist, or depending on the Kaiso Monarch as the only way that he will get any kind of recognition or any kind of funding, any salary or whatever, that there are so many opportunities putting your music on Spotify and all of these things that the young people know how to do, but the older persons are afraid of, not necessarily they don't want to, but nobody is guiding them. And because nobody is guiding them, you're telling them, well, give me your music and I will put it, not recognizing that giving the music for someone of my father's generation is giving you my heart and soul, and can I trust you to not wreck it? You understand? So there needs to be somebody serving as mediator between the generation that has been able to and the generation who has been doing in a different way for a long time, to try to see if we could pull them forward a little bit.
That's a very interesting trend of thought there, because the level of trust that I hoped we would be able to have, or at least that generation of Calypsonians would be able to have, they don't, because one or two persons of their peers gave the music to somebody else, and they never saw it again, and never got money for it.
And other people who have been benefiting from,
yes,
a dicey kind of situation.
And you're now in a position of having to relearn this business that you've been involved in for so long,
for so many decades.
And it almost feels as though, I don't know if we get to that point of them truly trusting younger people.
I don't know. And I think part of it is the approach of the younger people. Younger persons have because I see it even at the university, there's an entitlement that younger people come with. They don't come with humility. And I think that makes a difference. In our in West African traditions, we don't, the elder does not give to the younger. The younger have to come and ask. You understand? Because there's an understanding that if I give you more than you are able to handle, it could be to your detriment. So you have to come and ask. When you ask, I give, but you have to come and ask. I think what happens, therefore, is that the older ones are not giving because the younger ones are not asking. The younger ones are demanding. They're not asking. You understand? And the younger ones also have an attitude, well, if you want to give me that business, I go, you understand? I go organize, right? Kind of thing. And that is not helping. So somewhere in there, I think there's a dynamic that needs to be worked on. Because in my experience, the older ones are willing to share. They are willing to give, but it depends on who is asking and how is the asking taking place, right? It can't be that, well, I tell him I want him music and he won't give me so therefore I may taking here on. You understand? That can't be it. It requires a level of humility from the young people. And this generation of young people is not known for their humility. So there is one of the
we bold-face bad, and we have
bad,
horrible manners.
It's not helping. It's not helping.
No, I was wondering what's your relationship like with older Calypsonians.
I think because of my father being involved in the art form, I have been around older members of the art form. So the relationship that I have with some of the other Calypsonians around, I think is a different relationship from someone who might not have grown up in Kaiso in the way that I did. They would not have a similar kind of relationship with the elders. So I guess it makes it easy for me to be able to communicate with them because I know them since I'm a little child, right? And I guess as well, because I know them as my father's friends, the kind of respect that I would show to my father is the kind of respect that I would show to my father's friends. Because if I were 5 or 6 and disrespected, any one of my father's friends, that I get to culprit, right? So I grew up with the kind of humility that's needed. Yeah, because this is Uncle Bunny, or this is, kind of thing. Whereas if I was a big man and I feel that I talking to our next big man, is big man to big man, right? But the dynamic for me has always been, I was a little child to them, right? I have grown up as a little child to them. So the manner in which I would interact with them, I think, makes my life easy. But it might not necessarily make the life of any one of my peers who would have come in at a later stage as easy.
Yes. That's a very, I'm privileged to stand in that space with you as well too. Like everybody is friends with a parent or a grandparent.
Correct.
And so now when you see it, you're like, okay, all right, that was kind of calling people by their first name and thing is uncle and auntie.
Boy, I was on an interview a couple months ago. I was on an interview with Daddy. They had interviewed the two of us. And, I was talking and saying something about Daddy. And a caller called in and said, how refreshing it was for, to hear me calling him Daddy. And I saying in the back of my head, but so what again? I would have called him though. Yeah, what again? It had no other option. Yeah, it had to be Daddy. Right. So again, that is the level of the dynamic. I think that if the young people would be a little bit more humble, I think the elder ones would be a little bit more open and willing to accept some of the advice and some of the guidance that the young people are trying to give in this novel space, right? Because it's new for all of us, even for the young people, but because of our youth, you understand, we're willing to try things, we're willing to step out of the box. But if you imagine that you've been doing something in a particular way for 50 years, for somebody to, come and ask you off the bat, hey, hear this now, let me do it so now, it's not going to be as easy. It's not going to be as easy. And it requires some massaging and some, to get us to where we need to go.
That's so awesome, Heather. That is amazing. And I guess that's your tip for the youths.
That's my tip.
Bring
That's
your
my
humility
humble.
and come.
Bring your humility and come. Correct. Correct. The thing could work. The thing could work. It has worked for generations. It just bring your humility and come. You understand? Leave your privilege and thing by the door and come.
I like that. I love that. I love that. Is there anything you want the Jamet Nation to know that I ain't asked? Maybe you have something coming up. Maybe
it ain't coming yet. You understand?
Right.
I run in school. So I ain't started to think about 2023 yet. That's the only thing I will say. It's rough. I would like to applaud all teachers, all administrators. It's rough. It's rough. And coming back out to school, the little people have suffered for 2 years. I mean, you see a lot of trauma. One of the things that we've done at the school is that we've invited someone to do mindfulness sessions and breathing and stuff with the children. The children are anxious. I know that as a lot of big people have a thing against children saying that they're depressed and they're stressed. What you have to be stressed about? What depressed? It have something going on there. You understand? There are things, there are serious difficulties, serious challenges that the children have been suffering. So it requires some tenderness. Yeah. But kudos to all of the teachers who have survived 2 years online. I taught online for the University of the West Indies, and like I say, I'm dealing with big people who choose this subject area. They chose to be here, and it was rough. So imagine, the secondary and the primary school students who doing this become mommy say I had to be here. It is going to be even more difficult. So those teachers who have been in the primary and the secondary school system, I congratulate you on having survived those 2 years. And I really, really wish people the best, educators especially. You see this term here as we transition back into something that resembles what we used to know. It's going to take a little while. So don't be too hard on yourself. If you don't get it right in the first week or in the second week, it's going to take a couple months for us to settle.
As the Jamaicans say, settle on yourself.
It could take a little while to settle.
Ease out.
It will.
Yeah. Heather, this has been such an awesome conversation. I don't think we've ever spoken this long. Let's be honest.
No. It take the Jamet and them to bring we out, but that's all right.
Yes,
that's all
okay.
Right. Give thanks.
Yes, always. Thanking you so much for joining us onto Jamet.
The invitation. It's been
nice. I hope it's not the last time.
Indeed. So do I. So do I.